Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Dr. Lopkin, a lot going on this week. What do you say is first on the agenda?
It's definitely been a busy week, and I think you're starting to see the results of the big media crackdown, the Democrats forcing everything to be viewed in terms of an election, and it's been showing up in a lot of different issues. Not the least of which, of course, is, we are now 1 year out of the death of George Floyd. And as big a tragedy as that was, Minneapolis has actually been so much worse off because of their efforts. They cut the police budget. They're trying to cut what the police can do. And because of that, murders are up 117%. And crime overall is up as well.
Well, it's interesting because Minneapolis used to be a safe city, and it boggles the mind about defunding because it affects the very people they say they're trying to protect, which are poor people and to a large degree minority groups. Isn't that true?
Exactly. And it's not just limited to Minneapolis. Over the weekend, there were 23 shootings in New York. New York has also cut the police budget. In cities across the country, anywhere that they cut the police budget, violent crimes are up generally between 50 and 150%.
Well, we didn't talk about this before we started recording this edition of Carnivore Bites, but doesn't that even also dovetail to the blue flight? In other words, the flight away from blue states into red? I mean, isn't this indicative? I mean, if you're like New York used to be for a big city, was a safe city. Minneapolis. So people are leaving in droves, aren't they?
They are. We saw that, and it's not just recent. It's over the last 10 years. We saw it in the last census report. Democrats are losing House seats because Democratic strongholds, people are going, no, this is not working. This is now a terrible place to live. We are getting out.
I think the biggest example, or the best example of that, is California. Once, as it still is called, the Sunshine. No, that's Florida.
No, Florida is the Sunshine State.
Yeah, but it was
we'll get to Florida in a minute.
Okay. It was the land of opportunity in the late 50s, 60s, and then even into the 70s. And it's now the poorest state, I believe, overall per capita in the union.
Well, I don't know if it's the poorest, but you're seeing huge amounts of
highest
poverty.
Level of poverty.
Yeah, that highest level of poverty is different from poorest state because they do have very rich people to offset it. But footage has been coming out of homeless camps at Muscle Beach, homeless camps all over San Francisco. The homeless problem all over California is tremendous, and it's because of these liberal policies.
Do you think Gavin Newsom will be recalled?
I don't know. I think he thinks he's going to be recalled because he has been basically buying votes for the past several weeks. He has tried to get past a California-specific stimulus package for all the people so he can pay them off. He's been pouring a lot of money into the motion picture industry so that he can pay them off. But he's basically just pouring money at the problem, trying to keep his job.
I think he's a very interesting person. I don't think he's a good leader, obviously. But it's funny. I heard someone, I can't take credit for this. I'm saying he looks like something out of Central Casting. If you were going to, he's good looking, tall, but in actual practice, a complete bonehead.
Absolutely, and that's why California residents are forced to recall election.
True. What's next on the docket, Dr. Lopkin?
We've got where people are striking back at the media bias. Florida has passed a law that Florida residents can now sue big tech, Facebook, Google, Twitter, if these platforms, if Facebook and if these platforms, if Facebook and 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 if Facebook suspend their accounts for posting their opinions. Now, why this is big? One, it's probably going to take place in more states across the country, but it's big because of Florida, because let's face it, Florida is one of the states that Donald Trump claims residency in, which means he now has a legal standing to battle big tech.
That's fascinating, and I didn't even think of that angle. Well done, Dr. Lopkin. Yes, because and I think that that certainly makes things interesting over the next couple of years politically.
It really does. And in fact, during a press conference, a reporter asked the governor of Florida if he thought this new law would lead to more disinformation being spread. And the governor said flat out on camera, "Are you kidding? You mean as opposed to the disinformation Facebook and Twitter have been already spreading?"
Yeah, Ron DeSantis, I think he's going to be if Trump gets out of the way, he's going to be a formidable candidate possibly in 2024.
Possibly, yes. He's getting a lot of press right now. He's been standing up for the truth. And Florida is economically doing amazing. They've kept COVID down. Their positivity is dropping as it is across the country now, but they did it opening up sooner and protecting their economy, where states
and
like
he was criticized. He was called a bonehead.
Oh, yeah, he was criticized for doing this, but it turns out he was doing the right thing. And that's the thing. The media went nuts. If Trump said something, if Trump supporters said something, then obviously they can't get behind it. It can't possibly be true. And now you're seeing more and more this backfiring on them.
Because it's backfiring him even with the COVID-19 about, they ridiculed Trump when he said it possibly came from a lab. They're like, oh, that's ridiculous. And now they're more information and an investigation.
And now they're going, oh, wait a minute, maybe this was true. They couldn't admit that Trump was right about anything because their goal was get Trump out of office by any means necessary. And the truth just went by the wayside. Now they're all going, oh, well, turns out he might have been right.
Okay, but isn't it in closing, now the emperor has no clothes because they lost any degree of legitimacy. They went after a president. Yeah, there's always been a debate back and forth, and the media was always, more on the liberal side. But they went just totally off kilter. And I think the chickens are going to increasingly come home to roost. Final thoughts, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, the media has lost all credibility. And an interesting side note on that, this week, CNN was sold. So AT&T no longer owns CNN.
That's so funny and interesting that you said that because you predicted, you say it can't go on forever, bad ratings. You actually mentioned that on one of our Carnivore editions.
Well, AT&T decided that they didn't know what they were doing with all of their media assets, and they spun them off into a new company that they merged with Discovery Communications, which was the parent company of the Discovery Channel, Food Network, things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's now a media pure play. AT&T has gotten rid of CNN, and quite frankly, people are questioning what the future of CNN is now.
I think heads are going to roll, don't you?
I would think
Zucker
so.
Others?
Hopefully, Zucker. We'll see what happens, but they've got no credibility left because of all of the Trump bashing, everything they did to try to discredit him. It's now all coming back to haunt them.
Interesting. Well, great edition of Carnivore Bites. Unfortunately, fortunately, this nice Memorial Day weekend, we won't be doing our live show. We'll be back the following week, won't we, Dr. Lopkin?
Yes, we will. We'll see you then.
Take care.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.